It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Good day and welcome to the program. I'm Brad Miller and very pleased to welcome into studio for part two of a two-part program that we are doing this week. Malena Peraza is the walk manager, Northern Arizona Alzheimer's Association, the Desert Southwest chapter. Dr. Kruger, geriatric medicine, and based in the Cottonwood Verde Valley. And again, we so appreciate the two. I know you have very busy schedules for coming and visiting with us. Important information to impart. And part one was really, really something. It's available on our YouTube channel, so take a look at that, take a listen to that, and learn more today. And we're really covering a lot of ground. I want to talk, Malena, first, there's a couple of walks, fundraising walks coming up, as there are every year and have been for some time in our area, one in the Quad Cities area, one in the Verde Valley. Again, remind me when those are and what I can do to be a part of those.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited about these walks because we are moving. Our walk has been in Prescott for over 20 years, and it's the hub of Prescott at the courthouse where a lot of tourists like to go. It's beautiful. But we decided to move our walk to Prescott Valley on September 28th because there's more visibility, and it's just a little bit easier to navigate with parking, and so we're excited about that. So that's the 28th of September, and then we're also moving the Verde Valley Walk, which is October 19th to 10th and Main Street, to be on Main Street where there's, again, more visibility, and there's definitely lots of restaurants and places where people can visit afterwards.
And you even picked the most beautiful time of the year, I think.
I think so,
to be in northern Arizona, the fall, the autumn. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous here. We appreciate that. We will cover those details in a little more entirety toward the end of the program with some websites and things like that so you can get signed up. But the web address basically is
ALZ for the Quad Cities Walk. It is alz.org/Quad Cities Walk. Take them right to the page. And for the Verde Valley Walk, it's alz.org/Verde Valley Walk.
Terrific. I want to talk, Dr. Kruger was kind enough with us with over 30-some years experience working with dementia in the big picture, Alzheimer's more specifically in our conversations here today. We talked last time quite a bit about diagnoses and some important information coming along about some new directions for diagnoses, important new tools. But what about young people who are 20, 30 years old and Alzheimer's? It's way down the line. I don't know if grandma or there's a family history, and I don't care because I'm young and I'm going to live forever. Are there things that we can do to stave off Alzheimer's or lessen its severity or advancement if we are diagnosed someday?
Oh, absolutely. So the good news is that the kind of things that medical professionals tend to recommend for their patients really at any age are actually quite useful and successful at cutting the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
And these are things that don't require expensive medications, just to name a few. Regular exercise, and we can tell you how much and how to do that if you're interested. A healthy diet, probably one of the better studied ones is the Mediterranean diet, which is something that came from the west coast of Italy. It was described after and during World War II. There seems to be useful. Getting a good night's sleep, which will also help you feel a whole lot better. Mental activity, learning a new language, learning how to play a musical instrument, reading good books, getting into stimulating conversations with your spouse, family, kids, and friends. Why not? A little bit of caffeine from either tea or coffee seems to have a protective effect. Recent study that I just read a couple of days ago, apparently a little bit of olive oil is protective, just 7 mLs a day, which is just a teaspoon and a half, and it tastes good and it's good for you. I mean, how do you beat that? These are really very, very easy things that anybody can do. And, as a geriatrician, my role is to help extend the amount of time someone is happy and functional.
Yeah.
And, we're not going to live forever. We simply do not. But if we can take that good time and stretch that into 70s, 80s, or even 90s, I think we're probably in a good place. There's things that you can do that are probably not going to help you have a lessen your likelihood of Alzheimer's disease. A few years ago, we used to tell our patients a little bit of alcohol was good for you. it was good for your heart, and maybe it's good for your mind.
The French drink wine and live forever.
Well,
People hang their hats on that. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that was all an excuse that I grew up with.
Well, we can talk later, but I can tell you that if you're 65 or older, and I unfortunately am in that category now, a little bit is probably not going to hurt you. A lot is certainly going to hurt you, and a little bit is probably not going to hurt you too much, but it certainly isn't going to help you.
Sure.
In the same manner, doing things that increase cardiovascular risk probably increase your chances of Alzheimer's. If you're a smoker, don't do that.
Yeah.
Eating an unhealthy diet with lots of highly processed foods probably increases your chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. There's actually a number of medications, some of which are over the counter, that seem to increase your likelihood of getting Alzheimer's disease. And this has even made the popular press. The category is anticholinergics. And these are things like over-the-counter sleeping pills. We have a lot of patients that'll say, yeah, I had trouble getting to sleep, and, I have a couple of drinks to do that. Bad idea. The second worst idea is getting your antihistamine Sominex sleeping pills. That can actually increase your risk of Alzheimer's by a lot.
Really?
And there are...
With what kind of usage?
It's a good question. Not that much.
Really?
If you had one every 2 or 3 weeks, you're probably going to be okay. But even 2 or 3 a week is probably more than you should be using.
And those that you've named are things people might tend to use
They
more
use them all the time.
All the time.
And I haven't looked recently, and if I did look, since I'm now getting old and I probably couldn't read it because the print is so small, the last I checked, there was no warning on a lot of these products as far as increasing your risk of Alzheimer's. If you have trouble sleeping and you want to, talk to us. There's some nice apps you can put on your phone. There's some really safe ways
there's
to
a
do
ton
that.
of them. Yeah.
And we would much rather you did that than take a pill.
Right.
So there's something that you said that we like to share when we do presentations out to the community. It's basic. What's good for the heart is good for the brain.
Absolutely.
And I think without a miss, everything you mentioned is just going to be good for everything, even if it doesn't have. It doesn't factor into your eventuality toward Alzheimer's or your it's good for just all the way around. Mm-hmm. You didn't mention specifically sugar. I've been reading a lot that sugar is maybe the worst substance that's ever been discovered on Earth ever in the history of man.
Yeah, people have said sugar is the new cholesterol. And I think in a lot of ways it is. And there's lots of evidence that consuming sugar except a tiny bit, is not a great idea.
Yeah.
Interestingly, as a physician, poorly controlled diabetes is a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. That being said, a low sugar, hypoglycemia, low enough to make you symptomatic, that is to say to feel like you're going to faint and you're sweaty and weak, might be even worse than a high sugar. So hopefully your medical provider is helping you control your blood sugars appropriately.
I was just going to say, ask your general practitioner today.
Absolutely.
About these basics. There's not one of them that's worth their salt that's going to say all the sugar you want, drink, smoke, live it up. They're all going to follow those rough guidelines you described for all of the reasons, not just Alzheimer's avoidance. Yeah. We need to take a short break. Compelling conversation, and there'll be more. Malena Peraza, our guest, Dr. Corey Kruger. I'm Brad Miller. We'll be back to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley. And your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Brad Miller. Dr. Malena Peraza and Dr. Corey Kruger with us today. We're talking about the Alzheimer's walks that we'll repeat the dates and times coming up in a few moments. Again, during the break, we had some conversation that I want to bring back and steer toward our listeners. Malena, you said sometimes you'll be at some of these events, these walks, different events, have the table set up, pamphlets, information, and people will turn on their heel when they realize what it is you're selling, or not selling, but trying to distribute and help with.
Oh, absolutely. There's a stigma associated with Alzheimer's because let's face it, it's a very scary, awful disease. If you're familiar with it, you're aware of what it can do. And they don't want to, a person doesn't want to be associated with that disease.
Fear.
It's a fear-based connection,
it's a
diagnosis. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we want to shift that. It's an open mind, it's a psychological shift to have people identify and understand, just like any other disease that precedes this, that we made advances and we're here to help, but we just need to break open that door that it's not we are here. People need to address it. The sooner the better. And Dr. Kruger touched on that a little bit earlier. The sooner that somebody can get diagnosis, the better it is for their treatment overall.
Well, those lifestyle choices starting when you're probably, from a youngster. Okay, we'll give you 21. We'll give you that one just for our conversation. After that, kick the horse into the right gear. So there you go, just that. Right. And if a pamphlet is on there about those kinds of things, that's something people should grab up.
Absolutely.
Not walk away from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We highly encourage that.
Okay. A couple of other things that I wanted to kind of get into when we get into that. And again, bouncing back, we chatted more about diagnoses, but I want to come back and kind of land on that because that's where we've seen some recent real advances, it sounds like, in the work that is done by the association and other volunteers. Millions of volunteers over time will do this walk. You described 600, Malena?
Yes, there's over 600 walks in the country.
Okay, start to do the multiplication, and there's a lot of people that are involved. And yes, many of those walkers are going to be like the two of you, directly impacted through family connection with Alzheimer's or not. But I think we've kind of started at least to demonstrate why everybody has an interest in this. And if you want to start doing numbers, certainly there's cost and drains to insurance and medical care and all of those kinds of things. So that affects us all as taxpayers and human beings. But
it sure does.
We all want to kind of jump in and fight this good fight for the ultimate resolution, which might be a cure. Dr. Kruger, this is your expertise level. Is a cure a possibility? Is the brain too much of a mystery? Is that something that bell can someday be rung? Do you see that ever happening?
I do.
Really?
I think that, we certainly know a whole lot more about this disease than we did even 5 years ago.
Right.
And, I try to make it a point to keep up with the literature. We now have treatments that will literally sop up the abnormal proteins in the brains of people that have Alzheimer's disease. They slow the disease a little bit. They're not a cure. They don't stop it. But to me, it is a first step in what I think is going to be a long, difficult journey. Now, that being said, from what I can tell, there's a lot of things being done in the research world that I believe lead one to be optimistic. Mm-hmm. As someone who, A, treats Alzheimer's disease and B, has it running in his family very strongly, truly, it is a scary thing. And I am an optimist by nature, and I think we're going to eventually come up with something. You talked about something at a table. People are often afraid and don't want to pick up a brochure. The way to combat fear is knowledge. right?
Right.
And I think the Alzheimer's Association and me and my office, I think that's what we do. We provide knowledge. We provide knowledge of not just treatments, but also support for caregivers. And I think if we can get that message out, everybody wins.
And that's what the walks are about, and the tremendous outreach that's done beyond the walks. The walks might be the highest profile because they're events.
Right.
And those are very tactile. People are part of them that might not normally be in either your organization or medical professional or whatever it is. So that's a great way to kind of leap off. Do you get, I'm assuming, a ton of caregivers, and at these events is kind of sharing their stories? Does that happen? Is that part of this? Or
It's a very significant and emotional part of every walk, because a lot of people that are drawn, that register, have a deep personal connection, myself included. There are caregivers that are people that have been diagnosed for years or recent diagnosis, and they're there because they want to support and ultimately be there for their families, raise funds to bring awareness to what we eventually, as we've all identified, find a cure. And I kind of wanted to shift, and I'm going to look at Dr. Kruger when I say this, is that this particular walk is very unique. And when I say this walk, the Verde Valley Walk, is that Dr. Kruger will be at the walk and to answer and support questions that our community might have. And that's something that we want to add to the walk itself, so people can get information from Bonnie Shimko, who's great in the community, and Dr. Kruger, that will share information about any kind of questions. And
that's great.
We want people to go.
Yeah. So will there be a kind of a formal presentation, a few remarks, or just a Q&A, or how do you envision this?
So the way that we had it set up last year was there was an area where people can go, and it can just be some questions that people might have individually to talk with the doc, because I think that's we kind of said it. And rather than schedule an appointment, but people are there. That's the largest attendance of people that will get, that are there to support the Alzheimer's and learn more about it. But we also, Dr. Kruger is graciously will be there just to answer any general questions that people might have that come in and say, you know what, we're here. We heard about the walk. It's on Main Street. I think maybe Grandma has it. But Dr. Kruger, can I ask you some questions, and I can take this information home and share it? So that kind of information is going to be shared with people that attend that day.
And a question like that, exactly kind of the scenario that Malena painted. I think Grandma has it. We'll talk about some of the things maybe we talked about in our first show, those ticking off some of those boxes as a very, very initial out of the office kind of, if not diagnosis, then direction.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It'll be, just to put it out there, it'll be in an area where it's private, so no one's going to be listening over anybody's shoulder.
Okay. Well, that's great.
And any aspects of diagnosis, treatment, prognosis, whatever. I mean, obviously, there's limitations, because I can't spend an hour if there's 50 people in line, obviously.
Sure.
And I see my role as to not just answer questions, but help direct people.
Great.
To their own doctor, to whatever I think they would benefit from.
I would think that this, and I'm remiss in not bringing this up in our first segment when we were kind of talking about some of the things. Is there, to my understanding, there is a strong genetic component to Alzheimer's?
Absolutely.
Passing down the line. And
that is correct.
Your story is compelling in that regard.
Absolutely true.
Okay.
Having it run in your family does increase your risk. That being said, not having it in your family does not guarantee that you can't get it.
Yeah, I'm free. It's never in our family, so it's like any other chronic ailment, or even beyond that. Mm-hmm. It brings us back again, using a celebrity, Chris Hemsworth, Dr. What's his name? I don't follow the Marvel. I look at Malena, assuming she does. Thor.
Thor, yes.
Okay. Famously, not long ago, I think within the past year or so, was on a TV show, and they looked at medical history, and I don't know the parameters of it all, but he came away from it having been told that he was predisposed to Alzheimer's. Doc, does that sound like just a TV show, or was that, I don't know how they did it, if it was the blood test you mentioned in the last segment, or other kind of things, or just a genetic predisposition. But if someone is told that without having exhibited symptoms, and this guy's probably, 35 years old, do you take that to the bank, or what do you do if you hear something like that?
Well, given what we talked about as far as staying healthy, if I were 35 years old and I was predisposed based on either family history or the ApoE blood test, let's say genetically, there's no reason not to do the healthy kinds of things that cut your risk, because not only do you benefit as far as cutting your risk of Alzheimer's, you benefit by later in life being that active, functional, happy, engaged person.
Okay.
So why not?
Yeah, you
know?
got nothing to lose by going that way.
There really is no downside.
Yeah, when in doubt,
doing those kinds of things.
Work toward the beneficial side of it. And if you're built like Thor, it probably doesn't hurt
Well.
either. Clearly, the guy's got to spends time in the gym, and that's going to be helpful.
Right.
All right, we need to take a short break. A wonderful discussion. When we come back, we'll wrap it up again with that vital information about the upcoming walks, the fundraising events that are happening to benefit the Alzheimer's Association's Desert Southwest chapter. I'm Brad Miller with our guest, Malena Peraza, Dr. Corey Kruger. We're back right now.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back. Again, we wrap it up. These segments go so quickly when you've got interesting guests in the studio, and we certainly have a couple today. Malena Peraza and Dr. Corey Kruger. We're talking about Alzheimer's, the Alzheimer's Association, the Desert Southwest chapter. A couple of walks coming up in Prescott on September 28th, in the Verde Valley on October 19th, and we'll give you the website again here in just a moment. Malena, you had one more important piece of information for us today.
Absolutely. So for the listeners, if they have concerns or questions and think they want to take this discussion a little bit further, we have a 24/7 helpline, and it's in over 200 languages. I've had the opportunity to listen in. They are master-trained clinicians.
Great.
That confidently will answer questions as to, hey, I think grandma has it. Where do I go? They'll start to ask questions where you live, talk a little bit more about directing them to the agencies and clinicians wherever they need help. And sometimes it's just if they need an ear and they just need to cry about somebody that's been diagnosed.
I was going to say, this is clearly a caregiver thing?
Helpline, absolutely. It's there for caregivers or anybody that just is needing to talk or needing resources.
Right.
But it's a 24/7 helpline that we encourage people to call, and that number is 800-272-3900.
Okay. You said a helpline, does it have an official name of any kind? Alzheimer's Association?
They can also go to alz.org/DSW, like Desert Southwest, particularly for our area, if they're calling in to begin the process of navigating this journey and getting the resources that they need.
The 800 number will be a national switchboard.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't matter where they are. It's expertise that you're going to find everywhere equally. Let's have the number one more time as we wrap up.
Absolutely. It's 800-272-3900.
272-3900. That's one you might want to put up, especially if you are a caregiver. If you have any concerns beyond what you've heard here today, we would strongly encourage you to become part, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's a participant, whether you just want to find out more about what is a dread disease, but can be some of your anxiety can perhaps be eased if you have the right information. Strength, one of our guests earlier said, information, knowledge is power, and it certainly is when it comes to dementia and its umbrella of diseases. Malena Peraza, Dr. Corey Kruger, I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.